chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you. From national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good evening, one and all. Welcome. Cayman Islands to our Sabrina Speaks family, near and far. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, conversations for the world, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. It's so good to be back with you this evening, and I don't know wherever you're from. I hope that, or wherever you're streaming us from, that I hope you saw some sunshine today. Because even though we're in the tropics, today was one of those muggy days, a day where you could just do some comfort food. And if you didn't have to go out, it's just been one of those days where it's been that fine spray that your grandparents would probably tell you keep out of that because you're going to get a death of cold. It's been one of those days here in Grand Cayman. Comment below if you're from the sister islands. Let me know what your weather has been like. Let us know what it's been like. Has this been throughout all three islands? OMG. And it also calls for a nice bowl of chili or a good pot of rundown or maybe your favorite porridge. Whatever it is, it's that type of day today. But it's Wednesday. It is good to be back with you again for round two. Yes. What did you think about yesterday? Yes. Oh my gosh. I am so pleased with all of you. And thank you all for always tuning in and for being a part of this space, for being a part of the community. I appreciate you so much. But before we drive into tonight's continuation of our Vision 2008 discussion, if you didn't know or caught on to what I was trying to say, I wanted to pause and really honor something truly special. And what I'm talking about is yesterday. Yes, Alfred gifted his, this, I would say you got to call it, he gifted the country a moment yesterday. He gifted this country a moment yesterday evening with his poem, Who Your Mama Is. And it didn't just entertain us. I felt that it anchored us because it brought you back to the olden days where you could see each other sitting in church where there was no air conditionings, all the windows were open. You could hear those fans, or you could just see them. It took me back. It carried us back to a Cayman of let's put it into perspective now, of Iron Shore mornings and kitchen smoke, and you could hear the church bells ringing in the distance on Sunday, and elders wisdom sharing as well, and a community that knitted together by pride, simplicity, and just belonging. But let me tell you something. I swear those persons from back then, what we got is a modernized WhatsApp and social media. They had that locked down. They had that locked down before even telephones. But anyhow, Alfred, your words reminded us that Caymanian culture is not nostalgia. It is our identity. It is. And It is the compass that tells us who we are, even as the world around us changes. And, for that grounding, I want to honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. And I'm quite sure on the rest, from the rest of all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks, I see it. They want to thank you as well. Yes, thank you from the bottom of their hearts. The love is definitely being poured out here today. But Cayman, that grounding is exactly why tonight's conversation continues and why it matters. Because when we talk about Vision 2008, we're not just reviewing a document. We're actually examining the promises, the plans, and the pathways that were meant to guide our very own future, and the people are actually speaking. We see it here, we feel it here, we hear it in your voice. And definitely, Miss Anita asked a poignant question that echoed across the comments yesterday. What do we have to do so that this administration will update this document? That is a profound question. And she wasn't alone, to be honest, based on the sentiments being shared, even after the show. Caymanians come across the islands are asking straight across, are asking for and hoping that our current members of parliament for clarity and direction and definitely accountability. And that's why we must continue this breakdown of the Vision 2008. It's not to divide, but to understand. So let's just get that clear. It's not to blame, but to illuminate. Yes. And it's not to dwell on the past, but to chart where we stand in 2026 and just simply do a comparison and where we expect to go next, because that is definitely on the forefront of a lot of our minds. So tonight I ask you to bear with me so that we can pick up where we left off of Vision 2008 in our part 2 segment of Sabrina Speaks. And let us talk about what is planned, what was missed, and what the people continue to call for. Because at the end of the day, understanding our past is a first step to building a better future. And that should be the anchor that navigates us through this evening's episode of Sabrina Speaks. So I welcome you to join in on the conversation. Feel free to call me on 345-936-8255. Also, you feel free to WhatsApp me there on that line as well. Share your thoughts and your voice. But remember, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional regarding any specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. Yes, yes, yes. Good to see you all. I see you. You coming in. Strong and loud too. Yes, sharing the love. Now, really, let's see what's happening in our weather. For those of you who love it, for those of you who are like, not for me, over it. We want to pack up for Easter. Let's get ready. It's time. It's time. It's time. Well, here, compliments of the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Here's this evening's weather forecast. The synopsis calls for a surface trough that will continue to hold its influence on the weather pattern tonight, resulting in the chance of some showers. Moderate to fresh winds, along with moderate to rough seas, are expected across the Cayman area today as a high-pressure system continues to tighten the pressure gradient over the Northwest Caribbean. A slight decrease in winds and seas are expected from tomorrow as the high-pressure system drifts east into the Atlantic Ocean. A small craft advisory remains in effect for tonight and will be discontinued for Thursday. Radar imagery shows some showers in and around Cayman area drifting towards the northeast. The forecast for tonight is calling for cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near the mid-70s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 50 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. A small craft advisory is in effect for Grand Cayman. Small craft should exercise caution over open waters, especially along the north and east coasts. Within the reef and sheltered areas, conditions are generally less severe, but operators should continue to exercise discretion as localized choppy conditions may still develop. The forecast for tomorrow calls for cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise near the low to mid 80s. Winds will be east to northeast 10 to 50 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. There will be a low tide this evening at 10:13, a high tide tomorrow morning at 5:28, and another low tide at 11:49 a.m. tomorrow. Sun will set this evening, doubt if you'll see it, at 6:36, and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:24. The outlook is called for continued cloudy skies as moisture continues to linger across the islands with moderate winds and seas through Friday. So that's pretty much what's in store for our weather. And I am hoping that for all of you who are making plans and marking your spots, that you can plan accordingly. This looks as though it's going to be around us for at least the next 24 to 48 hours. So keep that in mind. Hey, everybody. I see you coming in, Damien. Connie Bonnie, you're there. I will definitely get to you, but you know how we do it. We got to do a little housekeeping first. Yes. You know how we do it here. But we are going to just turn it over to the news. Yes. Let's see what's making today's news segment. And let's start with definitely home. Yeah. The Customs and Border Control Service has repatriated another group of Cuban migrants. According to Cayman News Service, 8 migrants have left. Of 5 men and 3 women have been returned to Havana on Friday, the 21st of March. CBC has confirmed that these individuals were the same migrants who landed in Cayman Brac on March 6 after arriving on a makeshift vessel. They were processed and held in CBC custody before being escorted on Cayman Airways back to Cuba. Now, this latest operation brings the total number of Cuban migrants repatriated so far this year to 28. While 17 migrants remain in CBC custody as further arrangements are being made. More on local news this evening. This weekend, if you love a good bargain or you're hunting for something unique, Customs and Border Control is opening their doors and its warehouse to the public. Yes. The Cayman Islands Customs and Border Control Services will host a public auction this Saturday, March 28th, featuring a wide range of undeclared and seized goods. The auction runs from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. in the parking lot of CBC headquarters at 42 Owen Roberts Drive in Georgetown. Now, the items up for bids includes electronics, clothing and shoes, office and school supplies, automotive parts, accessories and tools, cosmetics, beauty and fashion items, home and health and fitness products. Now, CBC reminds the public that all sales are final. Everything sold strictly is as and with no warranties, refunds, or exchanges. Payments must be made immediately at the time of purchase using cash or approved card methods. Now, successful bidders must also remove their items right after purchase. So if you're looking for that big steal, you know where to go this weekend and what's happening. Yes. I don't know about you guys with bidding, but I don't have any luck whatsoever. Let's keeping it more on the local front, because as we inch closer to another hurricane season, 2 of Cayman's most trusted emergency partners are calling on the community to step up. Hazard Management Cayman Islands, together with the Red Cross, is hosting its annual shelter training session next month. And they're inviting current volunteers, shelter managers, and anyone interested in supporting emergency shelters. Now, the trainings takes place on Saturday, the 18th of April, and Sunday, the 19th of April. And this annual program is designed to refresh skills, strengthen coordination, and prepare volunteers for critical role shelter plays during storms and national emergencies. Now, anyone who is already part of shelter operation or those who want to get involved for the upcoming hurricane season is encouraged to register online. And what I'll do, you see the registration there, I will post the link up definitely at the bottom of today's episode, along with this flyer at the end of the show. And we know how important these things can be. So I'm really, really hoping that the support comes out will definitely be overwhelming as we prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. Because Cayman continues to strengthen, in its role globally. Yes, we're on to the next story. Let's roll, keep it going here. Yes, we're strengthening our role globally in the regulatory stage. Because we have hosted high-level discussions that shape how the world responds to financial crimes. And what am I talking about? The Cayman Islands recently hosted the United Kingdom's Government Sanctions Forum, bringing together representatives from the United Kingdom, the Crown Dependencies, and overseas territory. Now, the goal was to deepen cooperation on sanctions implementation and enforcement, especially as the United Kingdom prepares to assume the presidency of the Financial Action Task Force. The Cayman Islands Monetary Authority partnered in discussions which focus on emerging sanction risks, including the increasing use of virtual assets and the need for robust regulatory frameworks supported by close international collaboration. Officials noted that Cayman's involvement in these forums reinforces the jurisdiction commitment to high compliance standards, effective supervision, and protecting the integrity and reliance of the global financial system. Yes. So, keeping it here in our local segment, just bear with me. A major policy discussion is emerging around the future of 7 Mile Beach and how Cayman plans to pay for its protection. Environment Minister Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes has confirmed that the NCFC government is considering a tourism-funded beach replenishment program potentially financed through a tourist tax or departure tax. The proposal comes as erosion along 7 Mile Beach continues to worsen, driven by climate change, rising seas, and decades of coastal development. The minister told Parliament that Cayman will face a continuous need to re-nourish beaches in the years ahead. However, she did not address whether the government plans to require managed retreat for beachfront properties or introduce more sustainable setback distances from the high water mark. Two measures environmental groups have long advocated for. The idea of dedicated funds signals a shift towards long-term coastal management, but the details, including cost, implementation, and the role of private beachfront owners, remains open. We will definitely keep our eye on this and definitely bring you all of the latest as this story continues to unfold, because for some reason, I feel this is going to bring a lot of public discussion moving forward. Let's turn our eyes and our attention over to what's happening in our region, yes, and internationally as well. But I promise you, we'll keep following it. A major debate this evening is unfolding in Jamaica over public beach access to the island's beaches. And the government is pushing back against claim that new policies are eroding long-standing rights. Jamaica's Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, Matthew Samuda, has rejected arguments from an environmental advocacy group that the country's new beach access policy is stripping away Jamaicans' right to access the shoreline. The advocacy group has raised concern that the updated policy could limit beach use of beaches, especially in areas where private development is expanding. Minister Samuda, however, maintains that the policy does not remove public rights. Instead, he argues that it is aimed at clarifying regulations, improve management of coastal spaces, and ensure that access is handled in a way that balances environmental protection, public use, and responsible development. Now, the debate highlights ongoing tensions across the region, including right here at home, about how governments can protect natural spaces while also managing tourism, private investment, and environmental sustainability. Also, in other news out of Jamaica today, The government has adjusted its approach to taxing sugary drinks after strong pushback from industry players. Jamaica's finance minister, Favla Williams, has announced a revised special consumption tax on sugary beverages, shifting from a volume-based tax to one based on sugar content. The update rate is set at 22 cents per gram of added sugar and will now take effect on May 1st instead of the original April 1st start date. Minister Williams told Parliament that the 1 month delay is intended to give manufacturers and distributors more time to prepare for the new system. Now, the revision follows significant industry backlash, with producers arguing that the initial structure would have been too burdensome and could disrupt operation. The government maintains that the tax is part of a broader public health strategy aimed at reducing sugar consumption and tackling non-communicable disease. That concludes our Caribbean segment. Let's go to the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom this morning, His Majesty the King paused the usual rhythm of royal duties to honor extraordinary courage. His Majesty held a special investiture ceremony at St. James Palace, recognizing individuals who demonstrated exceptional acts of bravery. During the ceremony, the King presented several of the nation's highest gallantry awards, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Force Cross, the George Medal, the King's Gallantry Medal, and King's Commemoration for Bravery. These honors were reserved for acts of remarkable heroism, often carried out in dangerous, high-pressure, or life-threatening circumstances. And today's recipients represented the very best of public service, courage, and sacrifice. More in UK news. Yes, a historic moment in the Church of England today, and Prince and Princess of Wales were front and center to witness it. Prince William and Catherine attended the installation of the first female Archbishop of Canterbury, marking a groundbreaking moment in the centuries-old history of the Anglican Church. The ceremony drew senior clergy, dignitaries, and members of the royal family, underscoring the significance of this appointment. The new Archbishop's installation represents a major step forward for gender representation within churches, which has been steadily expanding leadership opportunities for women over the past decade. Now, their Royal Highnesses' presence added symbolic weight on the occasion, highlighting the monarch's support for this historic milestone. And as we take it over to the US, because I know lots of you will be traveling, yes, airports across the US are in gridlock today as TSA struggles to still keep up with security lines moving. And travelers are arriving up to 6 hours before their flights. Now, that's not delay. That's a system failure in real time. TSA points to staffing shortages and equipment issues, but within the lines wrapped through terminals and flights leaving half empty because passengers are still stuck at security, the problem is bigger than excuses. Air travel is essential infrastructure, and right now it's buckling. If this is spring, summer could be a crisis if it continues, and travelers are doing their best to adapt. But the system responsible for moving the country needs to adapt faster, is what officials are saying. Yes, and last but not least, we want to definitely take a look at what's happening in our markets, because global markets are on the edge today as economists warns that the economic fallout from the Iran conflicts is pushing recession risk sharply higher. Economic pressures from the ongoing Iran war, especially rising oil prices and fears of renewed inflation, have led several major financial institutions to warn that a recession is now a real threat. According to Moody's Analytics, recession odds have climbed to 48.6%, with chief economist Mark Zandi calling the risk uncomfortably high and is on the rise. Goldman Sachs has also raised its recession probability to 30%, citing higher oil and inflation forecasts. Other analysts warns that if the conflict worsens or persists, inflation could surge towards 5%, and oil prices could reach levels that historically trigger downturns. Now, some experts say oil averaging $125 per barrel could push the United States into a recession, a scenario they now consider plausible given the current situation. Global analysts echo the concern. BlackRock CEO Larry Frank warned that soaring oil prices could lead to a steep and stark global recession, especially if Iran remains a threat and energy markets tighten further. Now, the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for 20% of the world's oil, remains a major vulnerability. Energy experts say that a prolonged disruption there would mount to a guaranteed global recession. Now, last but not least, for today's edition of the news on Sabrina Speaks, we come back home. We love celebrating young Caymanians who are shining on the world stage. And today we have a remarkable achievement on to highlight. Yes, Cayman International School, Zaria Mahid, a grade 11 student, has been awarded a Young Leader full scholarship to attend the Yale Young Global Scholars 2026 program. Zara was selected from a global applicant pool of more than 14,400 students, with only about 10% gaining admission and even smaller number receiving full scholarships. Her acceptance reflects outstanding academic performance, dedication, and clear drive to excel. Now, the Year Young Global Scholars program brings together students from around the world for an initiative, collaborative academic experience, and participants explore a range of disciplines, including STEM, social science, humanities, and cross-disciplinary studies. CIS and the wider Cayman community are celebrating this milestone and looking forward to all that Zara will accomplish through this prestigious opportunity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I felt that little Zara, I have been following her for quite some time. This is the kind of story that fills me and should fill all of us with hope when, one of our young people rises to the top of the global field, not because of privilege, but because of her hard work. And this young lady, I know for a fact, has been consistent. Her intellect and definitely her determination. And it definitely shows us and reminds us what Cayman's next chapter and our next generation is capable of. So Zara's accomplishment is just not personal. Yes, it is a reflection of the talent growing right here at home, and it deserves every bit of recognition. We applaud you. We congratulate you. Yes, and all the best to you. I'm looking for even more things to come from you, Zara. Congratulations, my dear, and all the best from all of us here. Happy birthday. Go out to Susan Watson today. That concludes the news, but we got to go straight into birthday shout outs. Susan Watson is celebrating a birthday. I think I saw something with Natasha Bunton's brother too, right? Mr. Bunton, yeah. Happy birthday to all of you. We wish you all the best here from all of us on Sabrina Speaks, and to all of you celebrating anniversaries as well. And for all of those who are feeling the loss of a loved one, our sympathies, thoughts, and prayers as well go out to you. Marshall is in the house. Good afternoon to you, my sweet. Jimbo, hi. Definitely made my own sunshine today, and it was great. Lots of hearts to you, my friend. Yes, yes, yes. Connie, Sabrina Speaks in a kinder, gentler world, and the crew, of course. Yes, yes. Connie says, I'll be driving down from the Botanic Park, so I'll only be listening. I was volunteering. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, what did you find that experience like? Thank you for your service, is what I have to say. Jimbo says, hello, my dear Sabrina, Connie, and the crew of watchers and listeners. See, Jimbo, on to you. Guess I'll see you Saturday. Tight, auntie. You think? I doubt that, my friend. Jimbo says, Alfred has to get that published. Yeah, I want to copy. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Alfred realized what he's doing. And hint, I think there may be some other stuff in the works as well. So this is only the beginning of what we can see from that talented young man. I'm so proud of him. Hi, Andrew. Good to have you in the house. It's good, good, good. Damian Henry's also here. Good evening, all. Exceeding expectations is where satisfaction ends and loyalty begins. That is so right. Thank you. Thank you for those little words of encouragement and inspiration all the time, Damian Henry. Alfred's, yes. Yeah, he's in the house, guys. Good evening to you as well. What a sad sight that is along the coastline. Yeah, it is, but it's real, Jimbo. That was a part of the news segment. Miss Dorothy's also here as well. Yep. Black Rock, one of the rulers. Hence, you read between the lines. Yes. Hey, Julian. Did you move? No, I'm not knowing what you're talking about. Move to the new house. Don't know. Julian K. What are you talking about? Anyhow. Connie Bonnie. Yep. And she's saying hi. But yeah, it's just good to remind you. Oh, for all of you guys who are, remember, this is happening tomorrow. Remember the groundbreaking in East End. I want you guys to remember all of what's happening. And also with Collins Memorial. So please, I want to make sure that you remember these things that are happening. And also the DG 5K is taking place this weekend as well. Just so much going on. But just for those, this is a reminder. Oh my gosh, I hope the weather holds up again, because the groundbreaking for the George Dixon Park in East End is supposed to be tomorrow at 1:30. But based on the forecast, let's hope that the weather holds up again. But if anything changes, we will definitely make sure that we keep you abreast of what's happening there and keep you in the loop with all that's happening as well. So I want to make sure that you remember that. Okay. So if there's any updates on this groundbreaking again for tomorrow, I will definitely let you all know what's happening here in our community. And also the memorial service for our Mr. Ormule is going to take place on Saturday, March 28th at 11. And that's going to be taking place at the Red Bay Church of God Holiness on the Lord's Way, Selkirk Drive in Red Bay. So yes, I want to make sure you remember that. And also the DG 5K registration. So remember, that's also taking place. And for all of our Caymanians who want to do the government scholarships, that is also something that you can take advantage of as well. And that deadline is April 30th. So you may think you have time, but please do remember that time flies quickly, and that you should, if you have an interest, making sure I don't miss anything here. If you have an interest, make sure that you do it. Oh, here we go as well. Yeah, we got this one as well. This one popped up. And the CIG Summer Internship Program, apply by the 31st of March, and you go to careers.gov.ky should you want to be an intern in this year's program. So I think that concludes what we have to do as reminders for this evening. But this one now, I have to keep a close eye on this for you guys. I got to keep a close eye on this just in case they may have to postpone again. But as soon as we get it, we'll definitely share it with you. Yeah, there we go. So welcome, one and all. Annie's in the house. How are you, my sweet? It is so good to see all of you. And of course, the phone lines are open, so we welcome your participation. And we want to just get straight into what we wanted to cover. Yes. So we want to turn the pages now, and we continue with this breakdown of Vision 2008. And at any point in time during the discussion, please feel free to call in and give me your opinion, weigh in on it. Feel free to comment. Please remain respectful with your opinions as well. That even includes when you call in. That's all I ask, because this is just not mine. The conversation and the importance of breaking this down is really ours. So I said, feel free, please jump in, share your thoughts, send your WhatsApp 936-8255, because your voice definitely matters, your perspective as well. And all I ask for you to do is to keep your comments and contributions really respectful so that we can here to elevate this conversation, educate ourselves, learn and eat this space together. So let's go. Yesterday we left off on getting into the environmental pressure that is into the Vision 2008. And that's what we're talking about, okay? And in that document, the plan, which is what I thought that news segment about this coastal erosion, let me grab that image again to just let it hit home, because this was being discussed from 1999, and came to fruition in 2008. Yes. Hey, Live Happy. How you doing, my love? Welcome, welcome. Look at that. And in the Vision 2008, remember now, this was just the other day when we had all of those Northwesters coming in. Remember that particular image that came out of the BRAC? This was just the other day, this image on the screen. But in the Vision 2008, the plan warned that Cayman's natural environment, especially the wetlands, beaches, and coastal areas, needed stronger protections. And it is said, this document said that if we didn't take care of these areas, development and population growth would put them at serious risk. Now, look at this image. This is not 2 years old. In 2026, we're seeing the impacts and the effect on beach access, the debates on, and we're even seeing mangrove loss, and the concerns about sustainability. And at the end of the day, the lack thereof of long-term planning, which was one of the biggest warnings that Cayman needed consistency from, was long-term planning that continued across different governments and different eras, right? And with Vision 2008, it said that without continuity, we would end up reacting to problems instead of preventing them. And that's exactly what's happened. And we planned, but we didn't stick to the plan. We see it in the document. Another thing that was highlighted as well, because of exactly what we see here, was a highlight at that time of over-reliance on tourism and finance. Can you imagine? In 1999, we were talking, and included in this document was a subheading that carved out over-reliance on tourism and finance. And the plan also pointed out that Cayman's economy was too dependent on those two main industries. And what that document said is that it encouraged that we should diversify so that the country wouldn't be vulnerable to either sector should they be slowed down. Nobody saw COVID coming. Nobody see what's happening right now coming, but it's very relevant in 2026. And this is Vision 2008 that was being talked about in 1999. And hence, when you look at where we are today, we are still relying heavily on tourism, finance, and we saw during the pandemic how risky that can be. We hear the stories from persons in the tourism sector, even now, that are feeling the impacts, they say, because of not having a cruise berthing facility or proper facilities that we can welcome in bigger cruise ships. Now, that's a whole different discussion. What I'm saying is you hear the stories, right? You hear the stories. But do you remember, I got to throw this out because I'm getting some of you who are aware, who recall very clearly about this Vision 2008. But if you can jog your memory, was it really loud back then, or it was just something that you just left to the leaders, if your memory, and it all depends on your age as well, because we have had reflective stories that are being said here. Alfred said he remembers it quite well in school because he dreamed of a bridge going across the North Sound. We had Siobhan, who says she remembers dressing up in her, getting hair all dolled up, the best uniform there ever. Yeah. Making sure the clothes were clean. And she went out for the launch. She was proud because she envisioned herself in 2008. She even factored in how old she was going to be then. Yeah. Yeah. All of these things were actually still being discussed back in 1999 when we had beaches there. But look at what we have now. Yes. Another segment as well into that breakdown was that it spoke about transportation and the prediction, when we look at it today, that has borne fruit and has come to life. Yes. In the document of Vision 2008, it said traffic would become unmanageable. They didn't say if, may, might. It said traffic would become unmanageable. And the said document warned that if Cayman didn't plan ahead, that traffic itself would eventually reach a point where the roads simply couldn't cope. We see it even today with all the roundabouts. We have so much roundabouts now. Yes, it's true. Roundabouts in a roundabout. Make it make sense. I'm no engineer. Yeah. But back then, the signs were already there. They saw more cars, more development. I'm quite sure they could see at that time how much developments were going through planning, exactly the numbers at that time. They saw where, at the end of the day, the same old road system network that we have just would not be able to cope. And today, in 2026, that prediction has come true. And we see where traffic is one of the biggest right now frustrations for people living and working here in the Cayman Islands. Yes. Public transportation, again, part of this whole infrastructure under these pillars needed modernization. It was cited in the document. And the plan said that Cayman needed a reliable, structured public transport system, and that in itself would help reduce the number of cars on the road. Remember why they said they wanted that, right? But it wasn't about replacing cars at all. No. It was about giving people options. Listen to that. We have no other option right now based on what people are saying about the system, public transport system. People would prefer to be in their own vehicle. But guess what? Until recently, we were using the same road network systems. You're seeing right now in Barbados, where they're considering what we call highways, overpass, they call it flyovers. Yeah. To the point where now they are highlighting gridlock in Barbados. And they're bigger than us, of course. But what they're seeing is their infrastructure. And right now, what their only solution right now is actually for critical areas is to do what we call highways, overpass, flyovers is what they have them branded. I highlighted it here in the news segment. Yeah. But here we are in 2026, and public transport still almost looked the same as it did decades ago. I can remember Bobo in his bus. Yeah. And we know for all of you who want to go back Caymanian, Chikaliki. Yep. Remember those buses? I used to take that as a kid and drive around town, Bobo's on Sunday nights. We used to look forward to that. Big bus going around town, West Bay, and all through, just to sightsee. We took it as a child. I remember that going through. Yeah. And now what we've come to smaller 16-seaters and that sort of stuff, we have really regressed in many ways, you know. if we wanted to better our transportation system. Why? Because what we're seeing right now under infrastructure is that without these modern systems, everyone depends on private cars. And what do you think that's going to result to? Congestion, which is staring us right in the front of our feet. Denver says, still tourism, but what? Where the cruise pairs come into play. Oh, okay, interesting. WhatsApper. Plain and Straight says, greed has been our downfall when it comes to 7 Mile beach erosion and many other important issues in Cayman. Jim says, who's commented, even a good public transport system. People want their freedoms with access to their own vehicle unless enforced and not giving people the options. Agreed. Andrew says, but I can expound on this a little bit more. And this is where they were saying that maybe people, when we look at the composition and the amount of nationalities right now that make up our population, a lot of the persons who have been invited to be here by work permit, contract, however, they're coming from many places where they've never driven a car before. They've never needed to own a car because they depend on public transport system, just saying. And hence some of the conversations being had, we're saying where if you weren't here for X amount of time, then you would have to use public system. That these are all ideas that people were suggesting could try and combat or keep the numbers down for the amount of cars on our roads. So it's not to say that people wanted to purchase a car as they got here. But again, we have had and heard the conversation of our public transport system. God forbid if it rains, if you don't pay a little extra and you got to go into, let's say, deep into Savannah Newlands. We see where some of these taxi drivers, it's alleged that they have the route to go to as far as Cayman, but you're on your own at the 4-way or the 3-way or Chisholm Grocery. They don't go their full route. These are all the things based on the discussions, but I'm quite sure there are people out there who are in tune and they're aware of what I'm talking about that can validate exactly what is happening here. And when you have persons that can afford to purchase a motor vehicle for their helpers, for their nannies, to do the drop off and pick up, to do the shopping for their household, that comes in, yes, as a luxury, but it's more convenient as well. And that's another thing. A lot of our schools, only the government schools, have a bus system. It was a big discussion during our time whether or not private schools could consider a bus system as well, instead of all the private cars going to the private schools, again, aiding to the whole congestion in the mornings and peak pickup times from school. That's something maybe we can explore again on another topic. But to bring it back to this and exactly what the public transport system was intended to do, it wasn't about replacing cars. It was about exactly what you said, Jim, giving people options that they had a reliable public transport system that they could depend on. But when you're hearing all of the complaints that buses are not even doing their full routes, that's not giving people any sense of security that they can rely either on what is already right now in or put out there for the public to use. Andrew says, BlackRock just made a statement that the world has to take note. There's a recession on the horizon. How prepared are we in the Cayman Islands? Do we have a plan for food security? How will tourism and people in the industry survive? Are elderly, unemployed individuals? We cannot afford to offer stipend to work permit holders, $40,000 at $1,500 a month. Yeah. We're still asking and still waiting to hear from an official statement from them, Andrew, as well. Good questions that you've placed here. And I'm hoping that our powers that be at some point would answer them. but we have actually asked for at least some update. We're still waiting. We don't know. And as we continue to see what's happening around the world, this is not fear-mongering. This is reality, whether you believe in BlackRock or not. I mean, I read a part of my news segment this evening. A number of people who are watching what's happening is saying it's imminent. This is the closest they've ever seen it. And pretty much once fuel goes within $125 to $150 a barrel, hello? Yeah, it is the green light. So excellent questions. And that's why your questions and comment is on the screen. Jim says, these persons are obvious just watching them drive. Those persons are obvious just watching them drive and or where they're from. These persons are obviously just watching them drive and where they're from. Alfred says, wherever it has been attempted, charging people to use their cars in city centers at peak hour has been hugely unpopular, but it has also worked. Oh, okay. Singapore has the most sophisticated approach with a rate that fluctuates based on the intensity of traffic on the road. Interesting. Plain and Straight says the government administration building should have been built outside of Georgetown, somewhere to the east. That was very sensible. That was a very sensible option that was soundly rejected by the government that was in control. Okay. Alfred says drivers are charged through an in-car unit with a cash card that automatically links the overhead electronic road pricing platforms equipped with sensors and cameras. Alfred, you sound like the Jetsons now, my love. You, I'm not telling you can't work, but we just need to get a statement. Excellent ideas. And I know that there's one gentleman, if not two, that I know for a fact had an entire system, public transport, road networking as well system. I know that for a fact. And it didn't get anywhere. Didn't get anywhere. Yeah. Theoretically, Cayman could charge commuters $5 per car for entering a designated area around Georgetown between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. The approach could be tailored, for example, by exempting vehicles carrying more than one person. According to a Compass research suggests 85% of rush hour journey is in Cayman are taken by solo car users. But it is alleged that a lot of the businesses that are in central Georgetown have actually outgrown their space and they're moving to another location. So are we designing something that is taking the traffic all in one particular area? Maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, the congestion will not be in Georgetown. Will it be spread out evenly or just relocated to someplace else? That's what you need to keep an eye on. Yeah. Yes. So where we're focusing on central Georgetown right now with all the beautiful revitalization, will that become a ghost town at the end of the day only for some national events, or will everything be going in one direction? I'm just asking the right question. I'm just asking, what's your opinion on that? Marshall says Vision 2008 had a lot of sound good information and suggestions that if it was implemented, we wouldn't have been, in the condition the country is in now with traffic, population, beach erosion, and etc. But it was shelved and it just there collecting dust. You know, Marshall, I could be honest with you, oftentimes I've heard it mentioned. What I haven't heard is exactly what Miss Anita asked. What do we have to do to pretty much press this administration to update this document? Because obviously you've highlighted a lot of things that is relevant to today. All of the research in preparing for going through this document with a comparison of what we're experiencing today is aligning that it's still relevant today, even though subtle changes, population size and all that sort of stuff may have changed, and not may have, but has changed. in an upward direction, meaning more, it's still relevant today. And we're seeing the negative impacts already. So it's not like you would be starting from ground zero. You wouldn't, because this would be the foundation for it. Jim says, and offering WO, I guess that's work permit holders, $1,500 a month would take them very far, wouldn't take them very far. They would have to be sent back to their own country. I don't know how we can navigate this. God forbid if a scenario like what Andrew pointed out plays out again, understanding the current need, and this is something that's happening all over the world. I mean, when you're seeing European countries right now that are feeling the impacts, we've gotten reports out of the Philippines. CMR had a story, I think, posted on it yesterday, where they themselves are having trouble with their planes doing the long hauls, and pretty much even within their area of the Philippines traveling, they have gotten word that if you fly here, make sure you have enough fuel that you can carry yourself back. Now, that's an easy workaround, and I'm paraphrasing. That's an easy workaround for a short term, but it's not something for the long term. But he did actually say, the gentleman that I saw a video on was saying, it is not sustainable because they're going to have some serious problems with the long haul flights. So I say all of this to say, going back to their own countries, they may not be able to get back there because we're already seeing where within their own countries, using the Philippines for an example, they're already having issues. Same thing with Hong Kong. Same thing with India. Yeah. They're already having domestic issues. And we're seeing where flights have been discontinued. We're even seeing where US brand carriers. There's a story as well out on Royal Caribbean cruise ship that they have changed 20 of their itineraries, and people now who may have booked on if you've got a cruise on Royal Caribbean, you may want to check your email or to make sure that you're not one of those itineraries that have been impacted. But that only brings to question exactly what you stated here, Jim. God forbid if anything was to happen, some of these people may not be able to get back to their own home. What will be the plan then? We're got to take care of our own. We see where our numbers are high. Caymanians are saying we're left out. They're taking care of foreigners better than they're taking care of their own. Yeah. What's going to happen, Jimbo? Some people are too proud to use the bus. True, some of them have never, ever used a bus, Keith. Some of them, unless they've gone to the States or they used a tram to go to Magic Kingdom or Epcot or something, or the monorail type thing to go to one terminal to the other. But to say use public system, no. Or they're going on these tours on trains and that sort of stuff, but they would never be caught dead in their own country using public transport. Yeah. That's no lie. You can say that in their own home, but I bet you if they go to New York and other US states, they have no other choice sometimes. Chicago. Yeah. Other parts of the world that they may go, they may use it. Yeah. Even in Orlando. Because, not all of us go far. But we do have some that go beyond the US and go to other places. So it's interesting. Maybe even in Panama. Andrew says, plenty of those cars are unlicensed, uninsured, and are owned by work permit holders. Congestion and bad driving by those work permit holders. It is alleged for true. And I think there was a general question or some FOI that was made in regards to the amount of motor vehicle accidents that were being had on our streets, to break down what nationalities were actually involved in a lot of these accidents. And I think that goes back to exactly what you're saying, Andrew, with trying to identify where the problem lies, whether or not it's our own or whether or not it's those who have never driven a vehicle before because of where they're coming from, but because of circumstances here, they are forced to learn very quickly in order to do their jobs or to get around back and forth as well, which leads into the whole into the same document, Vision 2008, where it highlighted that roads needed long-term planning. Yes, because in Vision 2008, it stressed, it was very clear in that document that roads didn't and shouldn't be built only to fix the problems then, but they needed to be designed, can you imagine, for the future. I think what we need to do is to really get an idea or to see who's alive today. Siobhan mentioned it, of who made up that, was it 250 persons who really put this document together, because they were true visionaries. We really need to dig deep into seeing exactly who were the persons behind all of this. Because in the said document, it says that they're not talking about the then, they're talking about designing for the future. And that meant, in that time, planning years ahead and not reacting when things got bad. And here we are now in 2026. Most of our road projects are still just there. We're just widening roads, but they're already overwhelmed. We're seeing where the desire for the bike lanes, and I see the plans for wanting to go east with the extension of that of the bypass, and they're trying to introduce additional things as well. Good. At least that is putting a step in the right direction in making sure that we can look down the road. But now the hurdles are making sure we're doing it safely, making sure that we're not causing other issues with flooding and all that sort of stuff. And we can see that the conversations are being had with preserving some of the wetlands and sensitive areas as well. So it's all of this balance now that we're weighing, while we admit there is still a need for better and improved infrastructure that was talked about. And there was in a vision that we would end up in this problem for 25 years, if not longer. Alfred says, if we had had a reliable transport system where I know a bus will be at stops every 15 to 20 minutes, I would leave my car home. Too many idiots are on the road. I tell you what, the rate prices could go up. Now we could wish we had it. I'm just hoping that it proves otherwise. As I sit here actually manning this post, I really hope that it's not as grim as what is really on the doorstep right now. Miss Anita says, sadly, it seems that our various governments over the decades suffer from the same aspects of ADHD, having great difficulty in terms of accomplishing what needs to be done in relation to long-term planning. I don't know if it's ADHD, Miss Anita. I think there is just so much, and this is speaking from a very short experience. There is just so much to be done. You're trying to get it done, speaking for myself, in your time that you're there to make a difference. And the desires of your administration, the desires of you being a responsible minister, does not necessarily move at your pace, because you're not the engine. So I could have a Bugatti, but a Capento engine, if you kind of get where I'm coming from, without being at all dismissive or rude. It's just a fact. I am doing my best to be respectful. And when we can get the necessary processes, the right skill sets in some of these ministries, the amount of resources and the willingness that they also buy in to the vision in order to produce at pace, we may begin to see a difference. If they are not invested or otherwise, it could appear to be ADHD. Not putting all the blame on the elected arm, because what we see change in priorities, if this national plan is something that could set the trajectory moving forward, and a commitment is given not only by the operational arm, but current sitting administrations and those who aspire to be one day there, that this is going to be the foundation and we keep adding on to it, I think we'll be a better place. But at the end of the day, you cannot go any faster when, as you said, various governments, and I'm thinking you're saying elected arms, are not the ones responsible for executing at the pace in which our people expect us to deliver. And let me confirm, I speak from my short time in that role. You know what you gave when you were there. That's not the said environment anymore. And that is where we honestly need the collaborative approach. We need the support of all of them. Because when we don't get that unity, that buy-in to take all of us forward, this is what happens. And before you blink, there's another set, another government in. And then it appears nothing changes. Nothing changes. Plain and straight, how hard could it possibly be to get a reliable and cost-efficient public bus system started when there are thousands of models around the world that we can choose to use? We cannot keep. Plain and straight, it takes political will and funding. And I know for a fact, under my administration, I think the Minister of Tourism, I stand to be corrected, he was in the same position then. In many of his trips, he actually looked at all these things and looked at sustainable way of improving our public transport system. But again, it had to be funded. And that's where the political will came in. Miss Rose, good to see you. Good evening to you as well. Damien says a growing population and key infrastructure, including coastal roads, airports, and sewage systems, makes the islands highly vulnerable to sea level rise and deteriorating roadways, not to mention living conditions. Quite right. Plain and Straight says trying to reinvent the wheel every time that we are trying to put something in effect. Yeah, but you see, if we could have this national plan and a vision of like 2008, just modernized, but remains the bedrock of where all of the people of the Cayman Islands says, now this is where we want to go. This was started 25 years ago. Here we are in 2026. You can't say we don't have proof of beach erosion. We can't say we don't have proof of the traffic congestion and the proof that we failed to keep up our road infrastructure, sewage, stormwater management, and all that sort of stuff as we continue to grow. All of these things that were highlighted and cautioned from 1999 in this Vision 2008 document has borne fruit to be a reality. And here we are 25 years later talking about the same thing. All I'm getting is that our people are saying, let's have this as the foundation to do our trajectory as to where we want to go for the future. This is already a start. We see the immigration reform. We see other reforms as we come into the digital era and the necessary infrastructure to keep us connected. We see what SEMA is doing. We see what our schools are producing, but we still yet have that national plan. So this is why people like Miss Anita are becoming very vocal and saying, what do we have to do to get this administration's attention to, let's modernize this. Let's update this, because obviously we got it right in 1999. Let's try not make this opportunity in 2026 pass us by to not at least try to implement a document like this using this as a foundation. I stand to be corrected, but that's the feedback that I'm getting. Please feel to comment below or give us a call and weigh in on it yourself, 345-936-8255. I'd love to hear exactly what's on your mind. Denver says, Cayman Bay is sucking in up KPMG. 3,000 plus employees are moving into Cayman Bay when the new building is completed. Which is why I asked a question earlier on. We are hearing that a number of businesses have outgrown current infrastructure that is in Central Town, and they're being relocated to various areas. So what is then going to happen? Are we spreading it out, or are we just relocating to one area and eventually, we're going to be complaining of the same thing, let's say another 10, 15 years from now, where in certain areas it's a bottleneck? Let's see. Jim says, there is little to no parking available at Cayman Bay now, especially during the week. They're all filled up. Maybe there's a plan for that. Clean and Straight say they should sell the Glasshouse site, the old government admin building, as site, and the site behind the legislative building, and build a new government admin building out in Red Bay Prospect spot or further east. What I heard in some of the discussions in regards to the old tower building, which is behind Holzam Bakery, tower building site immediately behind the Parliament, is that Parliament was looking at possibly using a portion of that to extend a parliamentary building. That's right now in discussion. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Jim, they will all accommodate their investment. Denver says. He also says they're not going to build with parking accommodations. That makes no sense. I guess at some point in time, there must be some vision where we're all going to carpool at one location and then just be shuttled into to this area. I don't know. And this is why it's important for us to just try and connect some of these pieces together when we have conversations like this, because you're seeing what's happening before your eyes. And even as we have some people commenting on the show and they give their opinions, you hear me keep asking the same questions. How can people ask these questions or query this or query that when they're not even able to identify certain things? A lot of the commentary that you guys are making right now is that you're picking up something and you're trying to connect the dots, but you're not sure. Why you're not sure is because maybe we're not in certain circles. Maybe you're not picking up on certain things that are happening around you, or maybe we just suck at PR from those who should be telling us certain things. I don't know. What's your take on it? I welcome your feedback. Clean and Straight say we absolutely should be regularizing the using the public bus system like they do in other countries. But that just cannot happen with the bus system that we have now. And Clean and Straight, I'm telling you, that's what people are saying. Cars and expensive food is what made America great, but they got unaffordable have to. You win some, you lose some. Yeah, you're quite right there. And we're seeing how that's playing out now as well over there. OMG. Andrew says, how many households have 3 or more cars owned by father, mother, and children are traveling into Georgetown? But most specifically, Cayman Bay, as Georgetown is commercially dead. Why not carpool for 3 days out of the week? Conserve on fuel. Plan your activities as a family. It isn't every day that you need to go and do personal chores. Saturdays are most chores undertaken, to my observation. You're quite right. And you get it done before 1 o'clock sometimes. I don't know if it's going to be where the demand for services and all that sort of stuff on a Saturday now could consider being extended, because we're seeing where Saturday, we know a lot of the places do shorter hours, but it's not that people don't need their services, because exactly as you've pointed out, that's the day that many of the chores are taken based on your observation. I'm quite sure a lot of people have seen that as well. So for those service providers who actually see a spike in their sales and that sort of stuff on Saturdays, but still close based on tradition, maybe 1, 12, maybe 2 o'clock, a little earlier than the Monday to Friday thing. Maybe they may consider extending their hours on Saturday. Who's to tell? Or it goes back into that topic that we had. Do we see ourselves opening certain businesses or give people a choice on Sunday? Andrew, you see, all of these things all come around for discussions, and it's a delicate balance, culture, tradition, but it boils down to choice. And it also brings down the question, when we're modernizing for the future, are we modernizing legislation that actually builds that into it as well? Jim says, some of these slow drivers causes issues, just as the ones who are heavy-footed. They cause dangerous situations. It's the options of freedom, Jim further alludes. Yes, and Plain and Straight says, the government departments that are renting space all over the place could move into existing government administration building, and the new building could possibly be built somewhere along the exiting east-west arterial. Let's look. This is why it's good. I'm glad that you guys are asking all of these questions and making all of these suggestions and statements. This is why it is important from a national perspective, just not when the sitting of Parliament that they're debating bills and they make these statements and all that sort of stuff, that certain times at some point you do substantive press briefings. I'm not going to give up on that suggestion. And you guys have agreed with it as well. All of what you're highlighting here in ideas, somebody goes back and they look at the comments, because I know that they do have people feeling these shows and stuff, and they get their feedback on what is being said, and don't think they don't look at your comments. You don't even have to know or have a plan with what you want to say. If you really want to include what the people have to say, you get some sort of a sampling of what discussions are being had based on the comments. And they could tailor a lot of their public-facing discussions, and let's say a press briefing, based on the accumulation of comments and statements, suggestions, to either say, let's see from this thing, prove that we're hearing what the public's saying about this, and this is where we are as a government, and this, come from it from that perspective. You guys wouldn't be saying things like this or questioning if you had an idea. But what I'm of nationally where we're going, and updates, not in silos, but unified. Because one thing, if you want to get people attention, just say the government is doing a press briefing. Let's take hats off to COVID for that one, because people never really used to do these whole things until we were in lockdown. But that respect, calling it a government press briefing, gets everybody's attention, which means you come with something that is nicely structured. It isn't a waste of time. And in whatever you're delivering, it addresses to what semblance, what has been collective from the discussions that have ensued by members of civil society on various platforms. That will show you all and make you all feel inclusive. That's participatory. That's feeling as though you're valued. Yeah. So a lot of what you're sharing right now could be actually less frustrating, less felt as though you're ignored. If certain things, if certain behaviors were actually displayed, and just have a simple press briefing that encompasses or address some of these things. Again, it's a suggestion. We're on the ground, we're seeing it, we're feeling it. I'm hearing and seeing all of your comments. Let's see if they will respond. When we go back now to Marshall says, I think that if the government had a good, proper bus transportation, more Caymanians and expats would take advantage of it. But it is not reliable and people can't depend on it. Clean and Straight said exactly. Not so sure about what. But that said, they said that government admin building could be built out east because the businesses were there in town. Then Dart came and built his city, and many of the businesses left town to go to Cayman Bay. Miss Rose says, earlier, more the joggers and walking people are too much reflected and distracting ongoing traffic on Westbury Road that need to be correct. Oh, that needs to be addressed. Okay. Better lighting, I guess, and people being responsible as well, Ms. Rose, but thank you for that suggestion. Denver said, I think you read my comment back to Jim. Oh, about Cayman Bay wrong. They will not build without parking accommodations is what I said. Okay, got you. Thank you for clarifying that. Andrew said the landfill is overburdened and has not been 100% addressed. For every person on island produces 1 ton of garbage per year. Our environment is threatened, no beaches, roads impacted with more traffic, and need more maintenance and repairs. The list goes on and on. We import 100% of food, everything. Mia Motley just announced that they are doing overhead ramps to address their traffic issues. However, they do export products and bring in revenue. They also announced a financial, I think I didn't see anymore. Clean and Straight said, I've never understood why the stores close early on Saturday when they know that is the only day that many people have to do their shopping, errands, etc. That has always struck me as ridiculous. Clean and Straight also says, I'm just throwing things out there as you speak and other people comment. That's why I love you and your show. Oh, okay. And I try to get them, to be honest with you, Clean and Straight, because it actually aligns and keeps, I find, on topic as well. And we get to know exactly how you guys are feeling. Andrew says, the other alternative is to limit the amount of cars family can have. 1 car for, we want people to go crazy. Sorry. Limit 1 car per family and 1 scooter. Bermuda car dealers will not support is there. And many families want their independence. Okay. Jim says, as far as a dump, we need a serious recycling plant sooner than later. Well, again, I think there were some utterances of what plans they have for that. Yep. Yeah, I realize. Connie, thank you for saying this because they opened back up their plant side, right? Yes. I thought I saw that was one of the flyers that I didn't post, or did I save it? Anyhow, I'll remind them. Yes, I think something opened back up there. Thank you for reminding me on that, Connie Bonnie. Anyhow, getting back, this is why I love you guys. Getting back, also in the Vision 2008, it says that land corridors also needed protection, which is why we're talking about that road extension now when there's a tug of war between protecting these sensitive lands and all that sort of stuff, freshwater lens, causing of flooding and all that sort of stuff, right? But in Vision 2008, the plan also warned that Cayman needed to protect land for future roads and infrastructure. Yeah. Because once land is developed, it's almost impossible to reclaim it for public use. We are seeing where that's a problem. So without a vision, how could we have known, and I stand to be corrected, if there was always a plan for the East-West Arterial to go as far as Frank Sound? If you knew, you had an idea of a footprint, and you look at the surrounding lands around there, if there was really continuity in succession planning from one administration to the next, maybe we would not have been landlocked by persons coming buying up huge parcels of land that in many cases fell in the footprint of exactly just an example of where possibly this road extension would want to come. And because, again, it goes back to Mr. Roy Bodden's book and so many others who have come before me that says it was a free market for anyone to come here to buy land. That's one thing. But if there were any discussions for future road developments, infrastructure, or protect even for your own locals, then with the lack of vision and planning, going blind, no protections for who can buy large quantities and acres on top acres of land, now you understand why we're in this mess. Because the very same land that was probably owned by persons, individuals, and not necessarily owned by government, our own government could have possibly had certain things put into place with the permission of landowners. I'm just saying, thinking forward in hindsight 2020. These are things that you could possibly have baked into future developments. But if that wasn't done, you can't then tell or demand somebody to sell you their property. And again, that's debatable. We see what's happening with Red Spot. But who do you blame? Do you blame the administrations or just lack thereof of having something like this enshrined in a document that it clearly states what the expectations are when it comes to protection of land corridors for whatever use, be it housing, roads, infrastructure, whatever? Yes, I go back. Once land is developed, and in this case, not only developed, once land is purchased and it's not purchased by government, it's almost impossible without costing the people millions sometimes of dollars, legal battles, to reclaim it for public use. And what we're seeing is that today, development obviously has moved quickly, that many of those potential corridors are gone, and here we go, are stuck with our options being limited right now. And traffic is now one of Cayman's biggest frustrations. One of Cayman's biggest frustrations. Morning and evening commutes are definitely longer. We hear it. We feel it. I've been in it. And the roads are crowded almost every day. We have discussed it right here on this platform. Sundays don't even look like Sundays anymore because of the amount of people that are on the road. And if you be honest with yourself, public transport still hasn't been modernized. In many a case, it has been fragmented. It's smaller. Because at least even when back in the day that our numbers were smaller, you had bigger buses that could hold more people, and they were doing a better loop than with all of these little buses not even doing their routes. Look at value for money back then versus now. Yeah. Because we're still relying on the same basic system, even though the population and the number of vehicles have grown dramatically. We see the headaches that our emergency service vehicles go through just because the lack thereof infrastructure that, God forbid, it's you or your loved ones or anybody in those emergency vehicles at certain times of the day, you're stuck. And we see where road expansion is reactive, not proactive right now. That's what we're seeing. The big discussion about the roundabout right by Hurley's, that was reactive, not proactive. And what we're seeing is that we fix problems after they happen instead of planning ahead. like this document had envisaged. Yes. And no one can deny that development has not outpaced infrastructure, because we're seeing buildings, we're seeing businesses, and housing have grown faster than roads transport system needs to support them. Yeah. And you don't think that Cayman crisis could have been avoided should even this have been put in place? So at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to go forward. We have an opportunity to at least give it a chance. What will it be? Plain and straight says, Andrew, I don't think that the one car per family or per household would work because there are so many multi-generational households. Plain and straight also says, government also needs to limit the amount of land that one person or one family can own. That limit should have been put in place a long time ago. All I got to do is read Mr. Roy Borden's book. That's a shameless, unsolicited plug. The man has it in his book. He has it in his book. You compare that with this Vision 2008. Denver says, our very own politician had vision, vision to purchase land where certain roads would be developed and sold it back to government. Same thing probably happened with the Eastern Highway development. Eastern Highway development. Well, would you call that inside trading? There are certain things as well that you could actually put in place that would stop that as well. So with all the accountability and all the declarations and all that sort of stuff, that we have to do now, certain things, and this is where it goes back to the conversation that ensued. We are our worst enemies sometimes. And what's the balance? If it is our own people who are doing it versus somebody else, or you would be okay if it was something where it was beneficial, where the government, so that everybody can benefit. You see, that's where the balance comes in. If it appears as though it's inside trading, then you say the person is dirty, that is wrong, they're making money off the backs of the poor people. You see, where is the sweet spot? Where is then fairness? Is it okay then if it's all Caymanians come together for the greater good and we all help each other to develop? Would you say, Denver, that was wrong on the surface? Yes, it looks away. It does. Would you then say it's on the backs of the people? Or would you say then it would have been best for government to have identified it from the get-go instead of that happening? Yeah. Andrew says, roads open up real estate development, access for housing, commercial businesses, agriculture, clinics, and recreation for individuals. Proper planning and infrastructure zoning and implementation needs to be put by individuals who can advise accordingly. Have we failed to plan or just didn't take the time to discuss? It's a bit of all two. We didn't fail to plan in 1999. We failed to execute. There was lack thereof of political will that dates back long before my time. And we have developed a behavior of just being reactive more than being proactive. And if we can get back to a stance where we can be more proactive and stop treating the symptoms instead of treating or getting to the solution, then maybe we may see ourselves headed in a better and a brighter direction. Dewarn Kafai, if I can afford 2 houses and someone can't afford 1, that ain't my issue. Well, you're quite right, because it's the truth. And at what point, some people have done very, very well for themselves, We have a lot of Caymanians that have done very well for themselves. And we cannot say that there are not opportunities here. But what people are saying now, my love, is that it's becoming less of a reality of possibly getting into that position with the current environment. That's what's being said right now. I was speaking to a friend just day before yesterday, and they're saying, it's a family, young enough, beautiful, they got good paying jobs, but they have identified that they will never be able to possibly, based on the criteria being set, to see where their money now that they're making are giving them the distance that someone making what they're making today made 8-10 years ago gave them the distance. You're not getting the distance, and that's where inflation comes in. So you could be a household of $10, $15, $18,000 a month. Let's round it off at $12,000 a month. Where that income household of, let's say, 3 or 4 persons would have created a good life, pay your bills, your mortgage, give you some stuff back in your money. It's not giving you the same distance today. And that is, you're working just as hard, in some cases harder. And these are young Caymanians that are speaking this way because they're seeing it. But I enjoy engaging with Caymanians who are not talking about this one, that one, but they're just having the sound conversation, looking at the infrastructure, looking at the bank, looking at the requirements. These are the types of conversations that are now being had because they're aware. But you're also hearing like defeated because of the environment. And you just have to be honest that, yes, it is just now that some of our young persons are reaching to the point where they're identifying that they're not getting the mileage of their income that someone making a $15,000 salary or a household per month of $15,000 per month, you do not get the same mileage. Just go to the supermarket, try to pick up 3 items and look at what you're paying. You don't get the same amount of groceries you got even 6 months ago, a year or 2 ago. You don't get the same amount. And it's the same thing now that's reflecting. And when we have our own young persons, first-time homeowners are trying to go to get financing for property, for owning their own home. And that's what they're actually feeling right now. Yeah. I want to pick back up where I left off. I don't want to miss some of these. Marshall, I hope I don't miss anybody. Marshall is saying, I remember from when I was going to school, there was talk about 1 or 2 cars per household. This is now 2026. If it didn't work then, I don't see it working now. It's even worse now, my love. DS, whatever this is, 114 says, we need to stop selling our land and just lease them. Also, the vultures are being strategic to clean out town, then buy them now and rebuild one spot at a time. My dear, like I said earlier on, I don't know what point you actually tuned in. I said you are now finding that regular persons are being able to identify certain things. And statements like this will answer a lot of questions that were being asked before yours. And you have created a lot of answers to a lot of the comments that have been shared today. We're now getting to a point when we're being more educated, being more informed. We're seeing more. We're asking the right questions. So thank you for that comment. Thank you. Because you have answered a lot or shed some light or caused people to see things in a different perspective that aligns quite nicely with what you have stated here. Denver says, government knew and should have bought the property, and any property that will be in line with a government development, even foreign development, which will become very controversial, but the Cayman protection in today's world. And Denver, this is what Miss Anita, I keep calling Miss Anita's name. There's a reason for that. Because she's saying, what do we have to do to make sure this government modernize this? Everything of what you're saying right there. If this document of Vision 2008 is modernized to take us into the next 15, 20, 30 years, it's not static. It means it can be amended as we go along. But what should be entrenched in it is not that you are pigeonholing future administrations, but this should definitely be an anchor for where the people of the Cayman Islands see their country going. Because we saw where this was the blueprint that was discussed from 1999, presented in 2001 by the then McKeever Bush, but never went anywhere. What I am getting now is that people are saying, we got it right in 1999. Let's not sit on our laurels, do nothing, because we have something to compare a Vision 2008 document with 25 years later. For what is a reality that just if we had actually kept on that path as an anchor to, let's say, administrations of 10 years, 12 years, we would be in a better position now. That's all I'm getting from people right now. So I'm hoping that this administration, being a mix of not one dominant party, but a coalition, will understand the importance of their representation to everyone and put this as something that they can come back to the people of the Cayman Islands and says, we've not only heard what you're asking, we commit to getting this become a reality in 2026 and definitely before 2029. But that will take the also buy-in of the operational arm of government and making sure that it can be delivered long before this chapter ends. Stop allowing permit holders from having, this is a comment, stop having work permit holders from having a vehicle and purchasing land, building businesses on the side, and selling online to subsidize themselves. Yeah, again, it all comes into accountability, enforcement. More and more, you will all hear me say, we can have as much laws in the world as you want. If we don't have them enforced, those laws are only inks on a paper. If they are not being enforced, it's just blowing smoke. It's blowing smoke. Andrew says, the average purchasing price of $1 is less than 23 years ago. I could buy a 1,300 square feet, 2-bedroom apartment for $145,000. Today, I have to pay $499,000 for that unit. Your salary does not jump 3 times, where I can afford even a bread at the supermarket. That used to cost 75 cents. Now, $3.50. I remember as a kid growing up, running in the back of Godfrey's for true, Andrew. True. I could take $1 and go to Godfrey's and buy the fresh bread. Those days it was from Norbert. Yeah. And it used to be coins in my hand and I would get a loaf of bread. Now, yeah. You're quite right. So I'm glad you put that into perspective because it ties back into what my friend and I were talking about. And yeah, they're just not getting the mileage. So you have put it into words exactly what we were saying in the process of even home ownership or purchasing and owning of land. Yeah. Denver says, I believe this coalition government has an outside leader, one that was not elected. Well, I don't know. Only time will tell for that one. But yeah. Let's see. You like a austerizer blender in a Denver. You. One of the big things that came about in this document as well, of Vision 2008, it covered culture and identity. And that's where we get a lot of people going now. The heart of the plan, Vision 2008 emphasized, yes, culture and identity. And what it meant under that section, as we talk about the great immigration reform that is expected to now come in effect on April 2nd, no longer on All Fools Day, is that it was envisaged back in 2008, Vision 2008, of protecting Caymanian culture. And Vision 2008 made it very clear, listen to me, Vision 2008 made it very clear that Caymanian culture needed to be protected as the islands continued to grow. They identified it from 1999. And even back then, the people back in 1999 were noticing how fast the population was changing and how easy it was for local traditions to be overshadowed. We're talking 25 years backwards. And in the same Vision 2008, the plan encouraged Cayman to be international, but it also talked about keeping its culture roots strong. Yeah. And that is profound, my friends, because our visionaries, going back as far back as 1999, saw certain delusion of exactly where we are today. Yes. It also highlighted strengthening community bonds. And one of the goals in the Vision 2008 was to keep Caymanians' sense of community alive. And the feeling that people look out for each other. Jimbo always says that here. That was one of the key things that drove him here. And so many others have shared those same sentiments, right? And know their neighbors and stay connected. We can barely even use the roadway now before you're being called all sorts of racial slurs. And you see where we're going. You see where we're going with that. Yeah. And Vision 2008, my friends, recognized that rapid development could weaken those very same bonds if we didn't actively work to maintain them. Yes, because that very same document as well, it encouraged more community events. Remember, we had Family Fair Day. We had a lot of things that used to happen in the center of town. We had Pirates Week where we had the largest numbers coming out. Yeah. And these community events were to be held in shared spaces and opportunities for people to just come together. Now it's almost selective. And there's just certain things that can only be held at certain venues. Whereas Georgetown is the capital. Yeah. And guess what? This same document emphasized and highlight the importance of teaching Caymanian history in our schools. The plan highlighted the importance of teaching not only the culture, the heritage, but our history and the values in the school system. And the idea was pretty much simple based on what I found in this document. That if young people understood where Cayman came from, and this goes for even those who are now here a part of us, because we don't talk about it enough. there was a great chance that if our young people understood where Cayman came from, they would be more likely protected in the future. If you ask some of these children about Bada and Bayreuth and Comart and Kirk Plaza, they'd be, what are you talking about? They don't even understand Cayman without a Cayman Bay. They can't, what are you talking about? That's the look on their face. Yeah. And Mr. Williborden store, Miss Doris, yeah. You could not, they would be just as lost, Miss Hazel Fudge. They would be just as lost. They wouldn't have a clue. 19 hole, Borden's Pizza. Yeah, I'm going there. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. You got 5
Good
minutes.
evening, Mr. Sabrina.
Hi, how are
Good
you?
evening, Cayman. I'm doing good, enjoying the little drizzles of rain. I hope you're doing good. Yeah. The old Cayman of yesterday, huh? I was just thinking this afternoon about years ago when I'm looking now at Martin's Cove condominium. I'm going. It was such a beautiful place to stay because I lived there many years ago, and we take for granted the few little things that make Cayman, but like what you're saying, all of the old things, the young children of today, they have no idea what that was. And what we have done is we have lost a lot of our culture because we do not teach it properly, and it's not handed down a lot of the times to those that it should be handed down. Because culture should be taught in school, and when we take things away, then we don't learn about what the past was. But I remember that grand plan of 2008, and I think the tower building was still around. Most people don't even know about that. Remember that?
I remember my mom used to work there.
It's the little. I keep telling people it's the small things that we have forgotten that make Cayman what it should be today. And when, like one of your listeners, Mr. Jim, said in his message there, we're not thinking about tomorrow. We're only thinking about today. And it seems like money seems to be ruling. And when do we say enough is enough, huh? And we had a chance back then in 2008, and a lot of the things were never ever put into play. And like you rightly said yesterday, here we are today. It's in our face, and what do we do about it now? And we have to somehow get to a point where, as Caymanians, we realize that what little bit that is left, we need to try to save it, and we need to try to push forward with a plan, because there seems to be no plan, I look around here now and I see the small little things that are changing. And I'm one of those that keep saying I've wanted to see the small. I had to see changes before I believe something could be done. I keep telling people, Cayman is probably at its last end. If we do not get this right this time, we're not going to have a second time. Because the generation growing up today, they're not interested, a lot of them, of what the past used to be, or what the Bayreuth or the Bada shoe store or the Comart or the Marin supermarket. They have no idea what it was.
Yes.
They have no idea of what it was when Cayman was there. I remember going to Marin's and shopping. And remember the one that used to be there just down opposite of Burger King. What was that called?
Atlantic.
Atlantic, and that's where you went, and you went to the shoe store up there on Eastern Avenue to get your shoes. And there were certain places we went that had what we needed.
Miss Rose store on the waterfront. Yeah, Miss Rose, and then we had Miss Iris as well.
It's so much of what made Cayman, we have totally erased.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that we're trying to save some little things, like the building in Georgetown is being saved of the piece of land. progress has to come,
Mm-hmm.
but we should do a better job of trying to save something from the past so that we can tell our story.
Right.
Because we're losing our identity or we're basically lost who we are, because we've not followed any plan.
Mm-hmm.
And, I keep saying it's the small little things that make Cayman Cayman. And today, I'm glad to say, speed has come down on one of the roadways in West Bay, all because 2 speed bumps have gone down on 2 sections of 2 roads.
What has come
But they
down?
need to, they put down 2 speed bumps
Oh, okay.
on the roads. It's the small little things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's the other small things that when you wake up in the morning on a Saturday morning, do you really want to hear blowers blowing from gardening, or do you really want to hear construction on a Sunday? These are the small things that we need to get by
Mm-hmm.
to make life a little bit better for everybody. Because
Mm-hmm.
Cayman has lost, we have lost our identity as Caymanians.
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying there's only certain few places where you can go and find Caymanian today. I keep saying that, but we have to do a better job of when we plan for something, we plan for the future, and it takes each and every one of us,
Mm-hmm.
because no man is an island and no man is a mountain or whatever, or however it goes. It goes with all of us trying to do our little part
Mm-hmm.
to try to fix what needs to be fixed in some shape. But we must have a plan. It's like I keep saying, we have all of this sun all year round, but why are we so dependent on fossil fuel? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'll leave you there, but I'm just glad to hear that we're having these conversations,
Mm-hmm.
because, Ms. Sabrina, years ago, we would have been afraid to touch them.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to get back to what made us what we were. Yes, we've advanced, but we've advanced way too far, and we need to put a halt on some things and say, look, for the love of money is not the reason what made Cayman Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
What made Cayman was the small little things, and we need to get back to its plan. And hopefully we will get a plan that works somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I am one of those now that as I see the changes, I'm becoming more hopeful
Right.
of that. Yes, this little place can be saved, but it has to be done now.
Well, it starts here. It starts here. We opened the door, and I only went back to 2017 with another conversation in the Vision 2008 team up, and I was like, "Wow, this has opened a Pandora box." And I said, Big Jim and other people advocated, "Look, we need to hear exactly what's in this document." Because now we're seeing exactly what was in the document, and it's coming to reality here in the front of our faces. Why not dissect the document and then ask for it to be revised now by this administration
to move a plan forward?
Correct. And Miss Anita has been an advocate for it, so her, Siobhan, and a lot of other people have been advocating where and how can we get this administration to listen, pull back out this document.
We get it.
And let's get it modernized, and let's get it. Let's chart our course moving forward. We can't allow others to just come and do that for us.
Chart it for us.
Or we do it on a reactive instead of dealing with solutions. We're treating symptoms, and that is our biggest problem.
Mm-hmm. You got to nail it in the head. And
correct.
But you know what? I just want to say this. Remember the big old hoopla about the gentleman with the dive little dock down there on Northwest Point Road?
Oh yeah.
I hope he's listening. I hope this gets back to his ears, because this is a way of showing sometimes that when your mouth. Let me rephrase that. When Caymanians come together, although we might be small in numbers at times, we can get stuff done. Obviously, somebody had to listen, and someone is listening, because that section right there where it comes off of Town Hall Road and go off to Northwest Point, there is now an actual sidewalk for the rest of the public beach, and the road has been changed up, because I hear there is plans to put, I guess the vendors can sell their stuff, souvenirs and stuff there. All that has been changed. So just to say this, that gentleman called us all kind of names and went on about this and that, and we couldn't go on his dock to fishing as Caymanians. But look at what has happened now. I wonder what his reaction is when he sees that the government has come in and done this. And what can he do?
Well,
I leave you there because that goes to say the power of Caymanians
correct.
in numbers
Correct.
can move things and make things in this country get done, but they might be getting done later than we needed them.
But at
But
least,
look at how
yes.
look at how it was dealt with.
Yeah.
It was not dealt with arguments like the way he came to us and colored himself black in paint or whatever and called us monkey memes or whatever. Look at how it was dealt with.
Right.
And that is just one thing that has happened here recently. And I am happy to see it. And another, the public beach, Governor's Beach, now has a sidewalk fully in front of it also. So things are slowly changing.
Yeah.
But we need to look back at that 2008 plan. And if we have to go out and get into numbers and do peaceful protests for the government of the day today to listen to us, that's what we must do, because we must band together as Caymanians and save what little bit is left. We welcome everyone to our shores, but you must respect the way and the law of the land, and we all have to. And that's what makes this place so unique, and it's paradise. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Have a blessed evening.
I'll give you this much before you go.
No,
There was a round of applause.
but I will go. I will go back without. We can say things
Yeah.
in ways as not to incite further disagreements among anyone here, but we have to let people know that you have come and found us here. This is Cayman, and we are welcoming you. But there are things that sometimes we want change, and change is finally coming. And I applaud the government of the day, and I applaud every voter that went out and voted. I keep applauding them, because keep your voices open going, because that's what changes things, and that's how people's attitudes change. And if we come together in small numbers, we become bigger.
Thank you.
So thank you, Cayman, and have a good evening, Ms. Sabrina.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you for your
Bye-bye.
contribution.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.
There we have it. We come to an end, but I got to read Miss Anita. I hope I don't get in trouble here this evening. Miss Anita says, this is not a recent occurrence. I wish we knew exactly the individuals, corporation, countries really behind the curtain, really running, calling the shots in our beloved Isles, Cayman. And from when did it start is the question. Did we start down this path when the various companies' laws were written in the early 70s to make Grand Cayman a tax haven? Many of those North American and British lawyers milked the system, becoming quick millionaires many times over. And sadly, it gave the Cayman Islands a bad name. Jim is saying, sadly and tragically, Chet, you're outnumbered. And as far as I'm concerned, it should have never have happened. I think Jimbo is responding to a comment there. And Denver is saying, Miss Anita Ebanks, yes. You and I know that that's not our generations of lately. Unfortunately, some of them late arrivals here doing the same thing is what Denver is saying. And he says, that was a correction, meaning he knows. Aliano says, can we not those big pairs like, I'm thinking you're saying, can we not do those big pairs like the ones in the United States, in the US? Sorry, get one of those big piers. Okay. You're asking not to get it or to get one like the US. I'm not so sure, Aliano. But anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this episode of Sabrina Speaks. Tomorrow evening, I'll be back on with you at 5. But guess what? I will only have an hour of Sabrina Speaks because I have a commitment that I have to go to. I promise you this will not be a regular occurrence. And, you know what we will do for the first hour? I will definitely open it up to you for you guys to share. And definitely when you do the comparison, ending up of this document to bring this to an end, it was very little that remains. And we were talking about more preserving our traditions. And when you feel exactly the 2026 comparison with how we feel with our traditions is really is all that remains for me to discuss of this. But I think the message has been sent. We have aired it. We have brought this Vision 2008 to the surface. Thank you for your comments. I know that they're being heard. Now we're going to wrap this up tomorrow. Remember, it's only an hour tomorrow. We're going to wrap this up tomorrow. And then we're going to see exactly what response we get from our leaders that be, and that's based on your acts. But what I want you all to also do is do not stop asking the right questions. Don't refrain from reaching out to your elected politicians and put the pressure on them to consider this. At the end of the day, your voice is just as important now as it is during a campaign. Yes, you're even more powerful now because you're not going into certain things blindly and you're not holding them hostage. They're there to serve. And for years, we have seen where persons have asked for a national print for where we're going in the future. And this is the closest to one that we have had. I'm hoping that you're finding these episodes informative, educational, and pulling back the curtains on a Cayman that we can still have that was in the making 25 years ago. Let's no longer talk about it. Let's bring it to reality. Please be safe on the roads. Until tomorrow, love you lots. Good night and take care.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.